Everyone's been talking about the gap between the Championship and the Premier League, so I figured I should probably test it. It's the last 2 years in a row now that the three teams relegated from the Premier League have been the three teams that got promoted from the Championship the year before, and it's starting to become pretty clear that that gap is so big that it's becoming insurmountable. Something needs to be done, and I'm the man to do it. I'm going to manage all three of the teams that have just been relegated from the Premier League in real life, last year's newly promoted teams, Leicester, Southampton and Ipswich. I'm going to manage all three of them at the same time in the same save and try and keep them all in the Premier League all in one go. And the goal of the challenge is very simple. All three of them need to finish in 17th place or higher for the challenge to be a success. And here is our save file with our three teams in. As you can see, I have a manager profile for Leicester, Southampton and Ipswich. And if we have a look at the season preview from the media, they are expected to be the three teams that get relegated. Apparently, the toughest task is going to be with Southampton. Ipswich are 600 to 1 Leicester, 500 to 1 Leicester. Easy peasy. But if we have a quick look at what we're actually dealing with at each club. So Leicester, of course, won the Premier League as recently as 2016. So what's that? Only 8 years ago from the start of the save. But of course got relegated, came back up again. And then, as we know in real life, ultimately ended up getting relegated again. I think part of the problem is still relying on this guy who's basically my age. Financially, we don't have a huge amount to play with. Although there's a decent amount of money in the overall club balance, our transfer budget is only £1.5 million. There's not really anything spare in the wage budget. We're going to have to sell to buy if we're going to do any transfers. And the reason they've got no money is because in real life, they spent £91 million, only brought £47 million in, so they've already done their spending. This squad should have been good enough to stay up based on the amount of money they've spent. When your club record transfer is Oliver Skip, though, questions do have to be asked, I think. But looking at who the best players are, according to the ever-trustworthy in-game star ratings, we're building around an ex-Spurs double pivot, which can't possibly go wrong, and a striker who's on loan from Crystal Palace. It's going to be fine. We're going to set them up with a 4-2-3-1. We're expecting a lot from Facundo Buonanotte, who's on loan for the season from Brighton. He needs to be awesome, and we need this front three around him to be a little bit more mobile and a little bit more energetic than old man Jamie. There's also no room in my starting 11 for some Football Manager go-to players from the past, Wilfred Ndidi, Patson Daka, Caleb Okoli. These have been players who I've used a lot in FM over the years. Forget them. This is our team. This is the Leicester team that will survive. We're probably going to try and sell some of these guys so we can actually do some shopping, though. We could really do with doing some shopping. Moving on to Ipswich, and the biggest challenge at Ipswich is arguably the fact that the game reputation still has them way down, because obviously in Football Manager terms, they've only just been promoted out of League One. So reputation-wise, we're going to have a little bit of a struggle with Ipswich. They're also completely skint, only £5 million of bank balance, basically no transfer budget. The wage budget is already maxed out. Part of the reason for them having absolutely no money is a real-life net spend of £150 million. Problematically, on players who've got absolutely no Premier League pedigree, like my boy Sammy Smodics, formerly of Peterborough United, who I think they spent £10 million on. And then a bunch of youngsters who actually, in real life, end up being much better than they are in FM. Liam Delap, we've seen enough over the years to know becomes great in Football Manager. He's not likely to be this season, though. All of which means we're going to have an Ipswich team that is built around Calvin Phillips as the best player at the club because of that Manchester City pedigree. And he's just going to have an awful lot of Championship players around him. I mean, Jack Clark is the third best player at the club. He's a Championship player. This one is going to be tough, and just like with Leicester, we're going to have to sell before we can buy because they've already spent all their money on a bunch of dross. This is what we're likely to be doing. I'm a lot less hopeful with this one than I am with Leicester. And then we have Southampton, the team who FM reckons is the weakest of the three. But as far as I'm concerned, the one that has the most potential because it's actual money. £51 million in the bank, a £23 million transfer budget plus spare wage budget, which is weird because just like the other two, they did spend in real life a net spend of £80 million, including bringing in a recognised Premier League relegation expert in the shape of Aaron Ramsdale, who obviously in this version of FM usually goes on to be England's goalkeeper for a gazillion years. So it's a top keeper we've got there at Southampton. And my boy Roddy Edwards, who's a proper Football Manager wonder kid over the last few years, usually ends up playing in the Premier League. But similar to what we were saying before about Liam Delap, unlikely to be ready this year. But there are a bunch of good players here. We've got a good mix of high reputation, high experience players like Ramsdale, like Lallana, like Walker-Peters, mixed in with some real decent young prospects like Cameron Archer, like Taylor Harwood-Bellis, players who do go on generally to be pretty good in Football Manager. This is the shape I think we're going to go to with Southampton, but of course with money to spend here, this could very well change before the season starts. So that is my 3 clubs. I now need to go away and do a transfer window. You use that as an opportunity to head down into the comments section and let me know where you think each of these 3 teams will finish in the league. And I'm going to go and try and do some good old-fashioned wheeler dealing. So we've made it through to the end of the first transfer window. And as you can see from that league table, Leicester have had a jolly good start. Southampton, I mean, none of them are in the relegation zone. That's the important thing. But I guess we need to start with Leicester because we've won 3 from 3 and everything is going really rather well at Leicester City. Transfer-wise, I really struggled to get anybody out of the club permanently, but because Football Manager works the way that it does, I was able to get a bunch of players out on loans that had future fees attached, and we could then spend the future fees. So Hamza Chowdhury has gone to West Ham on that basis. Connor Cody went to Brighton. James Justin went to Aston Villa, and all of that meant we did have a little bit of money to spend. We started gently because we needed some strength in depth at right back with Justin leaving. So Mark Pubil has come in from Almeria for not very much money at all. I only expect him to be a backup. Then we went and got Jesus from Real Madrid, who is certainly an upgrade at the back. And you might be able to spot the theme about where I think Leicester's weaknesses are, because we also went and got another centre-back, Nico Elvedi. He's come in from Borussia Mönchengladbach for £8.5 million. And we finished off with a defensive midfielder, Dennis Husenbasic, who's come in from Cologne. And despite having a difficult start to the season fixtures-wise, playing some big clubs and Manchester United, we have won 3 from 3, the most notable victory being a 4-0 away win against Chelsea, which, I mean, I told you Harry Winks was going to be the way forward. I have no explanation for it. We still don't have any money left. I'm hoping that by the time we get to January, we'll have been given some of this. If it becomes clear, we might be able to stay in the Premier League and we can do some more transfers then. But I'm already feeling pretty comfortable that Leicester should be okay. Southampton, on the other hand, was an exercise in banging my head against a brick wall because despite having money to spend, I've been able to spend none of it. All we've actually done is sold a backup goalkeeper. We have got a bunch of transfers that we're trying to get completed. So we should theoretically have some stuff set up for January. We're currently, in fact, trying to sign Patson Daka from Leicester, which strangely the offer was accepted. Don't know why. But I mean, various deals that we missed out on deadline day, Joe Bellingham, Ethan Ampadu, players decided to go to other clubs or not being able to agree terms. It was just frustration upon frustration upon frustration. But it does mean we head towards January with significant money to spend, and the start to the season hasn't been too disastrous. Just like with Leicester, we have beaten Everton. I don't think Everton are going to have a very nice season. We did lose to Wolves, which is questionable, but beat Forest. The thing with Southampton, we've not really faced anybody any good yet. Our first 3 matches have been against 3 teams you would expect to be down there in the relegation mix with us. So it's difficult to judge if we're actually going to be good enough, but 6 points on the board after 3 matches, that will do nicely. I just wish we could have done a little bit more or anything at all in the way of transfers. And then with Ipswich, I thought I'd hit the jackpot when we sold Cameron Burgess for £8 million to Leeds. He didn't want to play for us anymore. So we cashed in, got £8 million, thought, right, let's go spending, and then couldn't find anyone who would agree to come to us because of our club reputation. And we have got Federico Aconero, who will be a really good left winger for us in like 2 years' time. Probably not good enough for us now. It's not the kind of signing that we need. And we brought in Luke Thomas on loan from Leicester. Strangely, the offer was accepted. We brought in Luke Thomas from Leicester just to give us some strength in depth at left back, and the start has been much tougher with Ipswich, not just in terms of results but in terms of the teams we've had to play. Liverpool and Arsenal as two of our first three matches, and we actually haven't looked awful in either of the matches. Just a narrow 2-0 defeat against Liverpool. We managed to get a draw against Bournemouth, and then also managed to get a draw away at Arsenal. Means that I don't think we should judge Ipswich on only 2 points just yet. I think tactically we look like we're doing okay, and fingers crossed as we head towards a run of slightly easier matches, including playing against both Southampton and Leicester in the near future. I'm not going to throw matches, but I think results will start to improve. And improve they did, because this is the league table as we hit the start of the January transfer window. And as you can see, all three of my teams doing very, very nicely. I'm quite good at Football Manager. I don't believe any of this. There's a big gap between the Championship and the Premier League nonsense. It's all nonsense. We've got Southampton up into 6th, Ipswich in 8th, and Leicester, who are supposedly the best of the three, struggling the most, although it's struggling with a big asterisk because obviously we're still doing quite well. But if we start things off with that Southampton team, who are up challenging for a European qualification spot, as promised, we have some players who are arriving imminently. Wellington is a Brazilian left back. Love me a Brazilian left back. We've also got Liam Gibbs coming in from Norwich. We've got Brendan Aronson, who's coming in from Leeds, and the aforementioned Patson Daka is coming in from Leicester, where he just wasn't being used at all. He's started 2 games, not scored a goal yet, and he is going to be a welcome addition to the cause at Southampton. But as you can see, we've had a jolly nice time managing Southampton. Some big results, including a big 5-0 win over Wolves. We beat Spurs, we beat Leicester. We even beat Arsenal 2-0, which is a very, very unexpected result for that 11 to quite comfortably beat Arsenal. I mean, Ben Brereton Diaz, the reason I was chasing Patson Daka is because I just didn't think this guy was ever going to be a Premier League striker, but turns out he might be, because he's scoring at nearly a goal every other game. With the transfers that we've got pre-arranged, we don't have oodles of money left to spend in January, but still enough to do a little bit more business. And I mean, the question now is, can we push Southampton on to European qualification? We probably should be able to from here. Ipswich has been a strange one because the season started absolutely horrifically. I mean, it took a long time before we managed to win our first football match in the Premier League, and then good old Manchester United turning things around for us by letting us beat them 5-0, and from then on we've only lost once more, picking up victories over, I mean, a lot of the teams were supposed to be down at our level, to be fair, but what a turnaround, and the emergence of George Hurst as a Premier League striker, quite unexpected. 9 goals from 17 appearances for him. That's jolly nice to see. And yeah, that turnaround in form, I mean, look at that for a shape of the league season. Ipswich having a lovely time. And not only that, we have money to spend going into January as well. Having now spent all this time in the Premier League, the board have thrown some more money at us. So we are ready to go and spend, and maybe even push Ipswich onto Europe. The question now, I think, is can we get all 3 of them into Europe? And it's actually Leicester who might let the side down on that front, because as you can see, Leicester almost a reversed Ipswich. We started really well. Obviously, you saw us win the first 3 games, doing really, really well. And then it just turned, and we've really, really struggled throughout November, throughout December. And it is like a reverse of the shape of Ipswich's season. This is a Leicester team very much in decline. There is a little bit of money to spend going into January, and I think we definitely need to go out and spend some of it. It's the Patson Daka money, and it needs reinvesting, because Leicester entering free fall, and I would say they're the club we're in the most danger with, because remember, we have to keep all 3 of them up. It's no good if we get Southampton and Ipswich into Europe, but Leicester get relegated, I still fail. It's time for January transfers. And Ipswich are very much a team that live and die by form, because we had that run where we couldn't win a match. We had that one where we couldn't lose a match. Now we're on another run where we can't win a match. It's weirdly the same teams. It's almost as if Ipswich play all the good teams and then all the rubbish teams. So I'm hoping it will turn back round again. You can see from Man United onwards, it's a pretty easy run in until you get to Manchester City. But yeah, it's been a not very fun January transfer window, I thought I was being clever by selling Leif Davis for £32 million. Because I'm like, well, yeah, we'll take £32 million. We'll reinvest that. But then we started banging our head against the same problem we'd had in the summer with Ipswich. And that is, reputation-wise, no one wants to sign for us. We have done another loan from one of our other clubs. Cameron Archer has come in on loan from Southampton, where he just wasn't getting to start football matches. We're actually going to change the tactic up at Ipswich and go to a 2-striker system with Cameron Archer up front alongside either Hurst or Delap. We've also signed Alexander Jiku. He's come in from Fenerbahce for £10 million to give us a little bit more like top level experience in defence. And then to complete our new Premier League quality core of the team, Francho has come in from Real Zaragoza for £3.8 million, meaning that we are now going to be doing something along these lines, except it'll be Francho alongside Phillips, new boy at the back, new boy up top, and we're just going to try and outscore the opposition. It's annoying to get to the end of a transfer window when you're in poor form with that amount of money left in the bank, but we just couldn't find players. We were in that annoying thing that you sometimes get as a newly promoted team, where every player who would improve us didn't want to come to us or was far too expensive. The players who would sign for us and we could afford weren't any better than what we already had. So yeah. But as you've seen, we've had a little bit of a turnaround with Leicester, helped massively by a couple of cup wins to get some momentum turning back round in our direction, and a couple of league wins in there as well means Leicester are no longer in any kind of danger. In addition to selling Patson Daka to Southampton, we also sold Boubakary Samare to Fulham for £17.5 million, which did mean we were able to reinvest in some decent options. Jed Spence adding to the Spursy contingent here at Leicester. It's basically Spurs reserves now. We also got Danilo Sican, who is a new 6'1" physical striker, definitely my kind of guy. I think he'll come in and score plenty of goals for us. And Tom Kearney, at 34 years old, came in from Fulham just because he was dirt cheap, and it means we don't have to play Skip and Winks at the same time all the time. Just like with Ipswich, we weren't able to spend all of our money. We had exactly the same issue we had there. Although we're proving on the pitch that we're probably not going to get relegated with these teams, the way club reputation works in Football Manager is definitely making doing a complete overhaul of the teams a challenge, because of the reason I said before. And then Southampton, we've kind of got rid of a bunch of fringe players, the most notable of which was Joe Aribo's gone to Everton for £10.25 million. I think we've made more of an impact in January on the Southampton squad than either of the other two, so we already know Wellington was pre-arranged to come in. He's in as our new left-back. Patson Daka is in from Leicester. Liam Gibbs came in from Norwich, and Brendan Aronson in from Leeds. We already knew about all of those ones, but we've also brought in Hugo Larsson, who we know becomes an absolute star in Football Manager. £12.5 million on potential in a save like this. It'll be fine. I know what I'm doing. And then Martin Dardai has come in from Hertha for like £10 million to be. Again, I mean, we're signing good young players, not necessarily because I'm trying to do a 5-year project, but because you can't sign the good 27-year-olds because they either don't want to sign for you or they're too expensive. So you kind of have to go with potential, throw them into the team and hope they end up good straight away. We've had an unbeaten January, and that's a January that included 2 games against Manchester City. So I think we're probably going to be okay with Southampton. And just like with the other two, there is plenty of money left on the table. So assuming we did stay up, which we should, there should be plenty to spend on next gen day and in the summer next year. We're not going to do next year. I think I'll have proved my point. And that, boys and girls, is a point proven. The end of the season, bizarrely, the one that we got into Europe was actually Ipswich in the end. That switched to the 2-striker system, making a huge difference. If we have a look at who the star men were, Jack Clark has had an absolute superstar season, 16 goals from him. He's still apparently only a championship quality player. Well, he's going to be playing in the Conference League next year, and that is an incredible goal return from the left-hand side of midfield. George Hurst is definitely a Premier League player as well, and I never should have doubted Sammy Schmodix. I mean, he was a victim of us changing the system to not play with a number 10 anymore, because that was basically his role that got eliminated. But first half of the season, he was great, and Cameron Archer definitely coming in and making a difference as well. I mean, we really do demonstrate the whole young potential players not really being necessarily set up right in this version of FM, though. Amari Hutchinson barely played. Liam Delap only starting 3 games. There's a lot of future potential here at Ipswich, and for them being in Europe now, with money to spend, we could go on and win the Premier League within 3 years with that Ipswich team. I'm convinced of it. Southampton, on the other hand, star men for us here. I mean, it was the Aaron Ramsdale season. He's managed to prove that he doesn't always have to get relegated from the Premier League. I mean, he's far too good for a team at this end of the table, and it looks like he's going to be off to Saudi Arabia in another big money move. And talking of big money, there's money to spend there again this summer. And then Leicester, it was Oddson Edouard who scored the majority of our goals, 12 in the league, 17 overall. And with Crystal Palace relegated, I imagine he'd be looking to secure a permanent spot at Leicester, similar to Buonanotte, who's obviously going to be going back to Brighton. So it's not all roses for Leicester, because the best players are all going to be leaving because they were in on loan, and obviously finishing in 13th. It was a tough one for Leicester, but we did survive, and that's the important thing. And poor old Wolves, Crystal Palace and Everton are the teams who suffered from me coming in and changing the course of history. So, boys and girls, we asked the question at the start, is the gap between the Championship and the Premier League too big? I certainly see where the struggle comes from, but I think ultimately what we've all learnt there is any one of these teams in real life probably should have just hired me, because clearly I can give them the results on the pitch that they need to stay up. So if any of the newly promoted teams coming up from the Championship now want to get me involved on a consultancy basis for next season, I am very reasonably priced. If you've enjoyed that video, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.